Hi, everybody. Brianna Whitney, host of True Crime AZ Live. We are so excited. You can see my set is a lot different this week. I know you guys are used to us talking about the big cases around the country, but we are going paranormal, weird, haunted, and bizarre this week for a special Halloween edition of True Crime AZ Live. I've got my skeleton friend over here hanging out on the lights, and we've got our special set, even a smoke machine and a little goblet and a cauldron in the back. So we thought, you know what, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it full out. And I'm so excited for the show that we have in store for you guys tonight. We have multiple live guests standing by, waiting to talk about haunted, paranormal activity, everything that you could really think about when it comes to something you would associate with a spooky Halloween vibe. And so we have got a ghost hunter, a paranormal investigator standing by right now. And I want to talk about some haunted places in Arizona and how ghost hunting actually works. So this is segment number 1 tonight, the haunted paranormal. All right, so I want to bring in live Vinnie Amico. He's a ghost hunter, paranormal investigator here in Arizona. Vinny, this is awesome. First off, just like your backdrop is perfect. We got the shirt, we got the backdrop. I'm loving the whole thing. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Now, you're welcome.
And this is something you run AZ Ghost Tours, and so you guys take people who go on these ghost tours around different parts around Arizona of places that you can actually do ghost hunting. So I guess just before we even get into some of these places we want to talk about, show people, and they're super interesting, I want to know a little bit more about ghost hunting. What kind of equipment are you using? How did you even get into this? And kind of just explain to us the most basics here.
All right, quickly, as a child, I saw my grandfather. That's how I got interested in this. Back in the 60s, nobody would give you the time of day. So as I got older, I started researching. My first case was actually in 1978, a child similar to myself who saw something, didn't understand it. Back then, we didn't have the stuff that we have here today. There is tons of different equipment that's out, from standard EM meters, which basically were used by electricians. We have thermal imaging cameras. We have night vision cameras. Devices that are sensors. We have some that are kind of like a proximity sensor. We have vibration sensors and everything in between. So we carry a lot of gear with, if you see cases behind me, those are pretty much full with stuff. So a lot of stuff comes out with us.
And is the main goal to summon a spirit, to communicate? Like what exactly does that look like when you take out the equipment?
All right. Well, a couple things. As a paranormal investigator, we're called into a business or someone's home. They have possible paranormal activity. Our job is to figure out what's going on. 99% of the time, it really is not paranormal. It's something with wiring or the building itself or even the people. As far as our tours and our events, these are all fundraisers that we end up doing throughout the tri-state area, the Phoenix area. I'm from New Jersey. Sorry, I'm used to saying that after 30 years. But we take people out on different types of events. We have tours. We have full-blown paranormal ghost hunts. And they're all at different locations. We allow them to use the different equipment. We teach them how to use it. We explain how it's used. We give them a little bit of a training as far as the types of methods that we use. And then we let them have fun.
One of our photographers, his name's Nick, he asked me today about the Estes method. He actually wanted me to ask you about it. What is that, and is that a common method?
It is. It was started in actually Estes, Colorado, like 2015. A team came up with it. The idea is one paranormal investigator sits in a chair with headphones on and blindfolded. They are listening to something which is called a spirit box. For anybody that watched the shows, that's the device that scans the radio stations and it goes as it's going through. So he's listening to that. The rest of the team is actually in a different room and they're relaying questions via a walkie-talkie. The idea is the person sitting there will hopefully answer the questions the spirits are answering for him through the headphones, and he just relays what is being heard.
Like through the radio?
We do a little bit differently. He just speaks out loud and they have an actual walkie in that room and he relays it. We do it differently because we rather have everybody's there on that actual area, because all of our energies combined could be triggers and bring things in. We don't like to use walkie-talkies because they make what we call false positives, equip them to go off. Okay. So we rather be there. We ask the questions right out. when we do our events, we do a group Estes session. So we have one person sitting and the rest of the guests, they'll ask questions. And a lot of times it gets extremely involved. It really goes pretty far.
Wow. So I know you said 99% of the time it's not paranormal activity, but you guys
Right.
have certainly seen paranormal
Oh,
activity. I want to
absolutely.
go through a few of the locations that you had talked to me about. So let's start with the
Yeah,
1910 jail in Globe, Arizona. This
great.
is the old Gila County Jail Sheriff's Office. And you were telling me former inmates haunt it, specifically this inmate Kingsley Olds, who was awaiting trial in there. Can you tell me about who he is, and then the haunts, the spirits that you guys have been able to talk to or see or experience there?
Okay. Well, basically, June 24th, 1911, himself and two young girls, Lulu and Myrtle Goswick, they went on an errand for the father. It was really hot. They passed the river and they decided to, go in and get wet and cool off. He was found with the bottom of his jaw blown off. The girls were drowned. The younger child was naked, and the older one was still in clothing. He was brought back to Globe. They thought he was guilty. They were going to, hang him right there. They didn't need to wait for a trial. So they ended up putting him in the jail to keep him safe. There was a nurse on duty. Her name was Mona Franks, and she was there taking care of his wound. And he was telling the nurse that the night before, while he was laying there, he saw two girls coming and calling him, like waving him to follow them. So he was scared out of his wits. July 3rd, the morning of, about 4 o'clock in the morning, someone snuck into the courthouse, which is right next door. They shot through the bars and killed Kingsley where he laid. He was never got to trial. He was never convicted. And his spirit is basically unrest because his name is dirtied. Now, everything that I ended up looking at this case and going through the evidence that we're able to find via newspapers, etc., he probably did not do it, but because of the children being in his care, he felt that he was guilty because he did not
Right.
take care of them, protect them, and that's why he tried to actually kill himself.
Wow. And so you've gone into the jail. Have you
Oh
experienced or
God,
encountered him, or what kind of spirits? And tell me kind of your
boy!
guys' experience there.
Out of the 47 years I've been doing this, the jail is not just saying it's the most active, it's the most interactive. They do communicate. They will make noises, they make sounds, they jingle keys. I'll walk into the jail and I announce myself, hey, it's Vinny, I'm here tonight. And all of a sudden I'll get a bang, like a welcome bang. They love playing with the equipment, they like interacting with people. We have an unbelievable time up there. The place is extremely active. If anybody's ever going to go on any event and just want to do it once, the jail is the place to
That's the
do,
place
for
to
sure.
go. Why do you think it is? I mean, we're seeing pictures of this. Obviously, it looks creepy. It looks haunted. And we've got some video here of you guys actually working inside the jail. Why do you think that is one of the more haunted places you've ever seen?
Well, here's an opinion that I have. Everybody knows the term purgatory. Okay, so maybe the jail for some that are there, it is their purgatory. It's the worst condition, the worst place that they were in their lives, and they are doing their penance. They're being stuck at the jail. Others, for instance, for Kingsley, he wants to clear his name, so he is still earthbound to this earth. Other spirits, there are transient spirits. We might be getting a spirit that was killed in France that happens to be roaming by. The universal highway that's out there, universal conscious.
Yeah,
We feel that that's all there, but certain spirits are earthbound for a lot of different reasons, being uneasy, trying to clear their name, being wronged in life, sometimes even a fast death, an unexplained death. They have no idea what to do.
interesting.
It's like a large shock
That's
for them.
fascinating. We're going to go to the next one, but I just want to encourage people, if you're watching live, to send in questions too. Vinny will be able to answer them if you have any questions about ghost hunting, the equipment, the locations, anything like that. Okay, so the Acadia Sanatorium, this is in Oracle, Arizona, a very small town. This was allegedly haunted by the spirit of a nurse who had contracted, tuberculosis from the sick people she was caring
Right,
for. Can you explain
right.
a little bit about the haunts there, this nurse, and then what you experienced inside the sanatorium?
Well, here at the sanatorium, we have actually quite a few spirits. Two of the most pronounced is the nurse itself, and also a young child that accidentally killed himself playing with his father's gun. His name was Robert Van Dorn, and he is extremely playful, loves when there's company. We've actually had EVPs, which are actually sounds that equipment will pick up. A lot of times our ears will not hear that, but the equipment actually does. So we've got him EVP recording saying that he wants to play. We bring different devices down there. We bring him toys, which are called trigger objects, which allow them to want to interact. Here he is, right there at Fiddle to the Boy,
Yeah.
1936.
Yeah.
He loves to play. The nurse, we've done a lot of things with her. We do a quiet session where we actually shut everything down. The only thing we run are recorders, digital recorders, no cameras, no lights, nothing. And we sit there in the dark and we're very quiet. And one of us will start coughing and we'll hear like hard footsteps coming up towards the person that's coughing. The nurse is on duty. She wants to go and check out her patient. We've had a wheelchair that's in that one room move. That is another very interesting place. It's small, but it's packed with a lot of stuff.
Wow. Interesting the way you described it, especially Robert, the little boy. Are we typically talking friendly spirits that welcome your interaction with them?
Out of the places I've been, we have not really come across a malevolent spirit. We have come across someone that if you push them a little bit, they do tend to respond negatively. You have to respect, just like anybody else. You go to somebody's house or a party, you want to be respectful to them and their guests. You don't go in there and be, someone that's going to start trouble. And if that happens, sometimes the spirits will sort of, let you know that you're out of line. But all these places, especially Acadia Ranch, he loves company. It is a museum. Not too many people go down there. And whenever we go down, the more time we go to any location, the more familiar they are. So it's like, hey, they're here, they're back again, great. And they come out and they play.
Yeah. I mean, it's a visitor, really, So,
Yeah.
Loving everybody commenting. Thanks, guys. Spooky season. We love it. One more here. And this one's interesting. The reason I wanted to do the Superstition Mountain Museum specifically is because I want to talk about the plane crash there. And one question here, while it's up, can you only hear the spirits with machines or can you hear some without?
Okay. I'm not going to get too technical, but when we speak, putting out airwaves, our ears, they vibrate, it sends electrical signals to our brain. That's how we hear. Devices, they are magnetic in property, so they will pick up different things, different wavelengths and frequencies that technically our ears are not hearing, but they're able to pick up. Sometimes you do get to actually hear an EVP, but it's extremely rare that you actually get them. A lot of times they are recorded on equipment or cameras, and you do have to review your equipment. Otherwise, you miss 90% of the stuff that's going on there.
Right. So you really,
Even
the devices help.
Even with the Estes session, we record all those and review those because while that's going on, we may miss something, but it was picked up by the equipment.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for answering that. So the Superstition Mountain Museum, we're showing a plane crash. And this one is interesting because this was from 2011. So obviously these last two we were talking about, these are really older cases, some over 100 years ago with the 1910 Globe Jail. But this, 2011, this is pretty recent. This was a family that was on board this small engine plane, and the dad and three young kids all passed away. And this was the Perry family. So Karen Perry, the wife who did not get on the plane that night because she was sick, ended up helping make this memorial at this museum. And that included pieces of that plane. And so can you explain to me how this all relates to the spirits being kind of a recent, tragedy? You've been able to actually talk to the kids?
Well, the kids have reached out. I do not believe that they are bound just to the location, to the mountain itself. I do believe, just like anything else, if you're in your house and you hear somebody yell your name outside, you go look out the window. If you're familiar or you want to engage with them, you go forth and do so. So I think when we are there, that they do actually interact with us. We've had a lot of different experiences with voices, with equipment going off. That mountain, that range, there has been so much tragedy there over the years. Yeah. It is also a very respectful place for the Apaches. It's something that a lot of energies, a lot of different cultures have been there. So there's a lot of things that have been brought there's been giants supposedly in there, winged creatures that are up in there. While we were investigating one time, we were getting rocks thrown at us from, off the property. We couldn't understand it. Then one of our investigators actually saw it looked like three bodies running. And then all of a sudden they just morphed down and they completely disappeared. So talking to Apache, they said it could have been a shapeshifter that we encountered. But the kids themselves, they do interact, especially by the wreckage where that was brought in by the mother Karen. So it is, it's a sad story. When we go there, two of our investigators are what we call sensitives, and they're kind of empathic, and they pick up that misery and the sadness from those kids. One of our investigators just started crying. She had to leave the area. It just got to be too much for her.
Did these kids say anything? Do they communicate any words, or is it more a feeling?
More with the equipment, using the spirit box, doing Estes sessions. There is a couple of videos that we have there. That's one of them where we are getting EVPs coming up. We actually had a piece of equipment sitting on a table. Nobody was around it. And we were doing a session, and it physically moved by itself. The children were also in that same area, which is the barn. They end up talking with us with EVPs. They were playing with something which is called the flashlight method, where we unscrew the front of it, and then they're able to use their energy to bridge the gap to make the light go on. Then when we asked them to take it off, they were removed. During that session, when I said off, it went off, and also you hear EVP saying off, like it repeated what I said. So there was an intelligent interaction.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, this is completely fascinating. Obviously, you pay attention to all of this stuff year round, but a lot of people this time of year are interested just with the Halloween spirit. If people want to go on a ghost tour, or they want have more questions for you, they want to go out with you, where can they find you, and what can people sign up to do with you?
Okay, well, you go to azghosttours.com. Okay, we have different type of, I'm going to call them products. We have a standard haunted history tour. It's about an hour long. We take you through whatever location it is. We give them the history. We will show you physical evidence that we have captured there. Okay, then we have something called a Ghost Tour Plus. It is the haunted historic tour, but it's also adding a little bit of time so you can get a taste of what ghost hunting is. So that runs about 90 minutes. So it's a little bit longer, and a lot of people really like that. Then those people, all of a sudden, they're really interested, and they want to do the full-blown 5-hour paranormal investigation. That one gets really intense. That's, we like to have 16 and over, prefer adults, but some 16-year-olds are, they're mature enough to handle that. The history tours are family-oriented, so you can bring kids in there, and kids 10 and under are free, so you don't have to worry about paying for them. The other is 12 and over.
So everybody, there's kind of something for everybody, yeah.
It is all history-driven. There is paranormal twist. There is stories about it. There's evidence shown. But it all is about the history, because the history is tied into the paranormal, without a doubt.
Right. I don't even know if I'm mature enough for your 5-hour one. So TBD. Vinny, I really appreciate it. You coming on here and talking about this. It's fascinating. And yeah, like you said, it's not even just the spirits, it's the history too behind these places. And that's some of the most fascinating parts of Arizona too. In parts that maybe somebody doesn't know if they've been mostly in the Phoenix area or Northern Arizona, things like that.
We get a lot of visitors that come up. We do private events. I have a lot of paranormal teams throughout the country that come in. They leave their gear home. They bring their SD cards. They use all of our stuff. We're kind of liaisons for the place. We kind of babysit it. All the proceeds from all of the events that we do are donated to the location. We sell equipment. See behind me, Ghost Hunters Outlet. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
We sell all the gear that you see on television. That's how we make money to do what we do.
Well, I'm gonna have to buy
year to date,
something.
we've made $91,000 for the locations that we help.
That is great. That's
come
awesome.
on down, have a great time, and you got to support history at the same time.
I love that. Vinny, thank you so much for coming on the show. Happy Halloween almost. And we appreciate what you do.
Everybody get your spook on.
Get your spook on. I like that. Thanks, Vinny.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. We got 2 more segments, so I'm so excited. We had the haunted in Arizona, but now we're talking the paranormal in the sky. We're talking the Phoenix Lights. This is such a well-known, worldwide known case out of Phoenix that people are still talking about today. We've got the doctor who captured it all live so many years ago. She's standing by. We'll be right back after the break. All right, welcome back, everybody. Segment 2 tonight, the Phoenix Lights. A lot of this goes without explaining for so many people who have paid attention to this, but if you are either new to the Phoenix Lights phenomenon or the saga, just a little explainer here. We're going to show you some video of what we're talking about. So the famous Phoenix Lights were two light formations seen in March of 1997. They were around 8 p.m. and 8:40 p.m. You can see here one of the formations were orbs that made a V formation, and then the others were seen in a line about 40 minutes later. Now, at the time, of course, this is 1997. Not everybody had great video cameras or had the ability to be able to film these things like that. And so people wondered, are these UFOs? Is this military activity? Like, what are we looking at in the sky? And while it has been deemed to be military activity, there is still quite a bit of suspicions that surround, is that actually what the Phoenix Lights are? So I want to bring in our second live interview tonight. This is Dr. Lynne Kitei. Lynn, we're so excited to have you on the show. You are a Phoenix Lights expert and researcher, but first and foremost, you captured some of this famous video. So I first want you to take me back to that night in March of 97. What were you doing? You go outside. What kind of camera did you have that got us to this place now?
Okay, firstly, it's a little serendipitous that you had the ghosts on because I've been studying this, and you're an investigator, and I'm a healthy skeptic, searching for a logical explanation to what I witnessed and photographed up close and personal. I'm the only one with 35 millimeter that actually the military and university optical experts have tried to analyze, and they've authenticated. One of the videos there is mine. I'll show you which one, the three lights right over Phoenix. But to start out with, the Phoenix Lights mass sighting of March 13th, 1997. There is so much mis and disinformation. It wasn't just one or two events, as you would hear in the media. It was many events, over a dozen hours, and over 7 states, actually. Starting in Arizona, daylight sightings at 3 p.m. Then at 5 o'clock, there were sightings of Native Americans in New Mexico, 7 o'clock hour, and beyond in California, 10, 11 o'clock hour. There were 2 commercial airline pilots that witnessed, and that's the other thing. It wasn't just lights. We're talking about actual craft as well, 1 to 8 miles wide, according to Peter Davenport, the director of the National UFO Reporting Center. These UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena, that's my video actually, were seen. One of the craft was seen covering Las Vegas, reported by 2 separate commercial airline pilots. And the sightings continued until 5:30 the next morning when a Boeing crew was coming into Sky Harbor International Airport, and one of these craft was hovering right over their tarmac at 5:30 the next morning. So there were many, many events happening. In fact, if anyone's interested, go to the Phoenix Lights Network. I've worked very hard to try to show everyone what we've learned in the last 30 years through our investigation. Very meticulous. I ended up with pushing my whole medical career aside. I'm an MD and also a witness up close and personal 2 years before the mass sighting, and really tried to investigate everything and document everything as a scientist, as a physician, to let people know they're not crazy, even though most anomalies can be explained. Only a small percentage cannot. Just because we don't have the technology yet to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't mean they're not real. So it's time we get this topic out in the open and address it, accept it, and study it so we can find out not only who's driving these things, but also move forward in our own evolution. Because in my own investigation, I have found that there all unexplained phenomena, whether it's near-death experience with a number of witnesses to the mass sighting, had near-death experiences as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting. Half my book is about this. And out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena with mystical light associated with the experience is very, very similar in the experience itself, but the after effect, the awakening, the enlightenment, also the reality that, and we're finding finding with quantum physics and quantum mechanics that there might be 10 or 11 different dimensions out there. And what we're finding with these phenomena, with these UAP, and now the military is even sharing their data, is that there may be other dimensions along with ours. And if there's other times and spaces along with ours, then why is it such a leap to think that there might be other entities, whether they're ghost entities, whether they're UFOs or other ET entities in these other times and spaces that we get glimpses of if we're open to them or invited. And
So,
I will get back to your question with March 13th. But if
yeah.
anybody's interested, go to the Phoenix Lights Network website. It is packed with information, including my 35 millimeter photographs, many news entities as well
Yeah, I've
that are
seen them
terrific,
everywhere.
and the GAP page, GAP,
Okay.
Geospatial Animation Project, a 12-year study shows that there were 10 different craft
So,
that
but
people
so my
reported to, or
question
more
for
people
you
want to
then,
see
I mean, I know
the
you've
same
done so
craft.
much
Sure.
research on this, but I mean, the experts did deem this military activity. You don't buy that?
They did.
Well, so
They
what's your
came up
take on
with
that?
that. They came up with that a month after a USA Today article came out on June 19th. There was no, I'm sorry, June 18th. There was no explanation, no investigation as far as anybody knew. It just were crickets with government and military until a USA Today article came out, front page on
Hmm.
June 18th, and opened our sighting to international scrutiny. I mean, we're talking slow gliding, totally silent, these 1 to 8 mile wide UAP at rooftop level. And some people saw these things take off at blank speed without even dispersing the air, totally silent. Others saw them just split in two and shoot straight up. I mean, the data is mind-boggling. The data speaks for itself. Others saw these orbs detached from the main object, go out into the environment, and then redock with it later. But the only hard evidence that really came forward at the time. I had 35 millimeter, but I was having it analyzed for 7 years till I was sure that it was real and that it could not be explained, were the videos during the mass sighting. And if you look at the videos, they could be
Hmm.
mistaken for other things. And a month after this USA Today article, actually the day after, suddenly we get a public announcement that then former Governor Sargington was calling a press conference to reveal the culprit of the lights over Phoenix after nothing for months. And he comes marching out, one of his aides in a giant alien head costume, and made a mockery of it, which was not funny for the witnesses that actually saw something right over their heads, especially parents that saw something 2 and 3 malls wide, and he's making a mockery of it. They had to come up with something. And again, the only hard evidence they had were the videos. And a month later, I had investigated. I mean, I called every military base after this press conference, and they were more curious to see what I had documented than giving an answer to it. They didn't know either. They were just as curious. And I get a call from one of the heads of the PR from the Air National Guard. And she says, "Oh, Dr. Lynn, I think we know what those lights were back in March." And I was thrilled. I was looking for any logical explanation. She says, "Do you believe nobody looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard was in town sending off military illumination flares in Operation Snowbird, which we, call people to come from out of town snowbirds. But I found out later that in military terms, it means diversionary tactical maneuvers. And they may have been sending off flares to divert attention away from the true unknowns. But that certainly isn't what thousands, I mean, we're talking 10 to 20,000 people saw
Saw
on
that.
March 13th, 1997. And one thing that proves the point is that 3 years later, the Councilwoman Frances Barwood, she was also the Vice Mayor of Phoenix,
Hmm.
was running for Secretary of State to get answers for the Phoenix Lights and asking for a reenactment. And suddenly we get a public announcement that 3 Air National Guards coming into town to show everyone the Phoenix Lights. And talk about a joke. They tried to make a triangle, it was upside down, it fell apart immediately. And flares have huge smoke coming from them, okay? Not one witness, not one, to describe this. And also flares cannot keep a formation. They drift and drop with the wind. And I said to her, well wait a minute. When was the Maryland Air National Guard in town? She said March 1st to the 15th. I said, were they in town in January? There's a lot more to this story, I have to tell you, Brianna.
Yeah.
She says, not, no. I said, are you sure? She says, absolutely not. I photographed it. You go to the photo page on the Phoenix Lights Network website. You will see 2 months before the mass sighting, I captured on 35 millimeter. They're in the negative. They cannot be denied or explained. The same exact phenomena that I would videotape during the mass sighting are in the same exact location in a straight line over a mile wide, turning into a V shape. And 2 months before, I had called around and I found air traffic controllers who saw the same thing at the same time over Class B restricted airspace. And I called them the morning after the mass sighting and I said, was it the same thing? It looked like the same thing as 2 months ago. And they confirmed that it was the same exact thing over
Huh.
Class B restricted airspace. Anyway, she says, you never told me that. And I said, besides, you're trying to tell me that flares, again, they cannot keep a formation. They're dropped from on
Right.
parachutes from aircraft, and they drift and drop haphazardly to the ground in seconds or minutes at the most, and have huge smoke trails that are illuminated by the flare itself, traverse the entire state in a rock solid V formation, equidistantly spaced for hours. And she says, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. Well, I'm still waiting, Brianna.
For that call. So
So it's
so
never been explained. So that
so
was the only, by the way, Brianna, that was the only explanation they ever came up with. They never addressed the craft. I mean, we're talking gunmetal bottoms and windows with beings at the windows that very credible people reported. So there's much more to this story. So I
so
invite
if
people to visit the Phoenix
yeah,
Lights Network
well,
website.
right. I mean, it's a ton of information. So let's say it wasn't military activity. On the most basic level, what do you think it was?
Okay, that's the other thing. 2 years before the mass sighting, my husband, who's also a physician and a healthy skeptic, and I, we live mountainside in Paradise Valley, have a panoramic view of the city skyline and know what planes and helicopters and streetlights and car lights look like, had a very close sighting to our home of three oval amber orbs in a pyramid formation, and I have the pictures to prove it, right outside our bedroom window. And as we watched, they cloaked right in front of us. They shrunk very, very, very slowly, mechanically, as if there was an intelligence behind them. And I got pictures of them. And that cannot be explained or denied by top university and military optical experts. So um, we don't know what they are yet. I just know that they are. And that, very happy that we're able to share it today. And the Phoenix Lights mass sighting is really hailed worldwide by
So what does that mean?
experts and
Like when you say they
scientists
just
as the most
are,
witnessed.
like
I'm
you
sorry.
said you said they just are. Like that's why when I ask you what do you think it is? I mean, are you saying like a do you know?
I don't know. I don't know what they are. I just know that they are, and I have evidence to prove that they're real, and nobody can explain it to me. I'd love somebody to explain it to me. I'd love to find out. I've been investigating this for over 30 years,
Well,
and
and you have
still,
so much information. Like what what do you say? Because it's a lot, and there are people who say you guys are insane. This is crazy. What do you say to those people who doubt
well, that's why
your
I came forward
skepticism?
after 7 years. Yeah, that's why I came forward after 7 years of anonymity, because the data speaks for itself. I had a 750-page journal. After I looked into this, I had no idea. I knew nothing about this topic at all.
Right.
And once I started looking, I started finding such credible data by scientists and military and pilots that this has been going on for centuries. And Native Americans, by the way, and that's a really important connection here. In fact, serendipitously, 6 months before the mass sighting, I produced video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues for over 50 years, which is kind of ironic because when this fell in my lap, I felt obliged to do the same for this vital topic. But 6 months before the mass sighting, and this is really important data as well, I was invited to present my substance abuse prevention education program at the Gila Bend Indian Reservation. And they had one school, and they reside in between South Mountain and the Estrella Mountains, miles back. The area in between the basin is very sacred ground. And after the mass sighting, and as a scientist, and in science, we look for repeatability. And if you look on the photo page on the Phoenix Lights Network website, these phenomena keep popping up right in that area where South Mountain and the Estrellas intersect. So I called the principal, and they don't talk to outsiders, but I helped him out. And I said, did anybody see strange lights on March 13th? And he started to giggle. And I said, is that funny? And he said, are you kidding? We've been looking up at them for centuries. We call them sky people, light beings. I had no idea. That's the first I heard of it.
So
In
that Native
fact,
American
indigenous cultures
connection kind of is something.
worldwide, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
indigenous cultures worldwide, the Hopi, right
Yeah,
here in
yeah.
Arizona, have protocols to invite them in. That's how the Estrellas got its name. It means star in Spanish, gateway to the stars, and they believe that there's a portal or gateway right in that area. And again, just look at my data. It speaks for itself.
Interesting.
That's why I finally
Yep.
shared it after
Yeah.
7 years of anonymity, so that people can look and decide for themselves. Everybody comes from a different background, different upbringing, different belief system. Some people can't deal with this topic, and some people don't want to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone in their own time. But the data is there now if people want to search it out. And now with the, we have congressional hearings, UFO congressional hearings as well, where we have whistleblowers, we have pilots and military, and videos that it's coming out. It's all
Yeah.
coming out
Well, we
now.
have, I don't know
And,
if you can see on your screen,
there's much more to the
we have
story.
somebody commenting here
Yeah.
that night the Phoenix Lights first happened. Her mom and stepfather said they saw UFOs flying over the San Carlos Apache reservation. So it kind of, backs up what you're talking about too, about our reservation land and the lights. And so, I mean, we're still waiting, I guess, to find out. And I think that, the important thing here, Dr. Lynn, is the research that you're doing and your team, and that it's an ongoing study as to what happened that night and other nights back in the 90s. So I super appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you. It was a lot of information. I'm still processing everything I just learned from you. And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing, though.
Sorry to get very
No, I know
passionate, because
you've
it's really
dedicated
important
decades.
stuff. And it's coming out in the open now, and people can learn more and more about it. It's really a very credible thing. I would not have come forward. Okay, I'm a medical doctor, and it's very precarious to come forward
Yeah.
if I didn't do my research and investigate. You're an investigator, and see that now it is the most witnessed, most documented, most important mass anomalous sighting in modern history, if not all of history. And
Yeah.
I welcome people to again look at the Phoenix Lights Network website. We have a study that's going on that's confirming that not only is the hardware really incredible, but the Phoenix Lights, and this is really important, there was not one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I can't speak for other things, but I can about the Phoenix Lights. But they affected people at a very deep level. And we are confirming that. If anybody saw the Phoenix Lights that's out there on March 13th, 1997, please join our study. We have over 1,000 people from all over the world
Oh,
that have
wow.
seen similar phenomena, these orbs or these craft, and it's mind-boggling. We'll be actually sharing the results of the study very soon. I'll let you know about it because it's
Yeah,
very
please
exciting.
do.
It's really confirming scientifically with
Wow.
PhDs and MDs working on the project with myself that these whoever did this not only wanted to be seen in a very gentle, non-threatening way, but they woke people up to the wondrous possibilities in the universe.
There you go. There you go. On
And
that,
that we're not alone.
and that we're not alone, right? Dr. Lynn, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always fascinating. We appreciate it, and we'll be staying on top of all the studying and research you do. So thank you so much.
Keep looking up.
Keep looking up. Like it. All right. Thanks, Dr. Lynn, for coming on. Woo! I just feel like I had a whole history lesson and space lesson in one sitting. But the Phoenix Lights, you can research more about them online. It keeps people talking, guessing, and wondering for decades. Coming up next, our final segment. This is so crazy. A Skinwalker murder. We're telling you all about it. We'll stay tuned, and we'll see you on the other side of the break. Back. Welcome back to our third segment tonight, the final segment, the Skinwalker murder. This is such a weird case. To be honest, I started looking into this case about 4 years ago now. And our digital social media manager, Brad Denny, has been adamant that I cover this on the True Crime Arizona podcast or in some form or fashion. We hadn't gotten to it. And so when we talked about doing a Halloween show, we were like, we have to get into this case out of Flagstaff. It is so bizarre. I'm going to show you some video. This is about the 1987 murder of Sarah Saganito. You can see her here on your screen. She was a 40-year-old mother, and she was a housekeeper at the Flagstaff Medical Center, so the hospital in Flagstaff. She went missing after her shift in June around 11 p.m. And oddly enough, before that, she had told her family she felt like maybe she was in danger, but it wasn't something that she had leaned into a whole lot. So there wasn't anything different that she had done or that her family had done. But when she went missing, there was this big search for her, and her body ended up being found near a wooded area by the hospital. She was found nude, she was found strangled, and there were bite marks and lacerations on her. But the evidence was a little bit bizarre around the scene. Things that just seemed a little bit out of place, that didn't seem almost like a typical strangulation type killing that you would see. Well, turns out this guy named George Abney, who was a local poet and a professor at Northern Arizona University, NAU, ended up confessing to this crime on the phone to a priest. The prosecution said that his teeth ended up matching the bite marks on Sarah Saganitso's body. And he also had confessed to this crime. He was also near or inside the hospital the night that Sarah went missing. So the prosecution is thinking this is a slam dunk case. This guy's confessed, his teeth matched the bite mark, he was in the area, he's local in the area. And then everything gets really, really, really weird. So Abney goes on trial for first-degree murder in 1988. And this would have been a normal trial if his defense team hadn't come up with what they came up with. So George Abney's defense team said it wasn't him that killed Sarah Saganitso that night, but it was in fact the work of a skinwalker in the Navajo culture, the Navajo lore, that actually took Sarah's life. They suggested evidence at the scene showed witchcraft and dark magic that led to a shapeshifter or a skinwalker being the killer of Sarah. Okay, what? Like this is completely out of left field in the 80s here for this trial. And so looking up what is a skinwalker, there are different somewhat definitions, but in the Navajo culture, skinwalkers are considered shapeshifters. They are humans dressed in coyote skins who can attack victims on reservations at night. But this is in the Navajo culture. And so in this case, some people were very offended that this was being brought into play as some sort of defense for an actual human being who was on trial for first-degree murder. The defense itself, crazy, right? Like, this is really strange. What ends up happening, though, makes the story even crazier. Because of the Skinwalker defense, George Abney was acquitted of the crime. The jury found him not guilty. They believed the Skinwalker defense. He was let go. And to this day, Sarah's case is unsolved. So you have so many people in the community, the Flagstaff community, that have weighed in on this for years because, one, they want justice for Sarah. Two, it is practically unheard of that a skinwalker defense would work, which then leaves people wondering, did George Abney kill Sarah or did he not? So last year, there was a new docuseries episode that came out on Hulu that dove into Sarah's case. And Lori Matthews is a Flagstaff City Council member who is a liaison for the Indigenous Commission there. So she was actually part of this kind of premiere in the community where Sarah's family joined, and they hosted a forum after this episode played so that they could answer questions for people. The main question here, does Sarah Saganitso's family believe that a skinwalker killed her or not? And I want to play what Lori said her family said.
The Navajo culture, the community, very much believe in skinwalkers. But they for whatever the evidence was that they saw, did not convince them or even sway them that that was a possibility. And it was more about prejudice and this ongoing issue with lack of defense for missing and murdered Indigenous women.
And that's obviously a topic I've done a lot on, missing and murdered Indigenous women, the MMIW movement. We did a whole documentary on that and how important it is to make sure that they are getting the same attention as other women who go missing, and the same kind of resources too when it comes to a trial or something like that. Okay, so you have him acquitted. They believe in skinwalkers. They don't believe a skinwalker killed Sarah Saganitso. So that leaves the question, does her family believe George Abney, the NAU professor, was responsible for her death, or was it something different? Well, turns out there had been issues with an ex-boyfriend too. And so Lori explains what the family believes when it comes to her death, and also what some of the community members now believe after talking to her family.
Had the gentleman that was accused and got off, had he done that, he would, they believe that he would continue doing those crimes. And there hasn't been any evidence that he has continued down that path, which makes them lean more towards it more likely was the boyfriend. You know, some of the stuff that the family said about her when she would go home and she lived near the hospital, was already reporting that she felt in danger. And that was mainly coming from her ex-boyfriend, was causing her to feel that way. So at first, when I just watched the documentary, I was convinced it was the gentleman that had been accused and then acquitted. And then when the family spoke and talked about the backstory and different things that Sarah had said to them, we kind of shifted, as several of us in the room, and realized, wow, it maybe more likely was the boyfriend.
Now, here's the thing. Lori was able to tell us that for many years now, the whereabouts of both George Abney, who was acquitted, and Sarah's ex-boyfriend are unknown, that the two of them basically vanished off the face of the earth, have not been seen or heard from again, and so nothing has changed on the front of either one of them in terms of any potential development. They also haven't found any other persons of interest or any other potential suspects. But the Coconino County attorney said last year that with new DNA technology, as we know, there may be a way to actually look at some of the evidence and have it retested in the case. If that crime scene was so bizarre and there were certain signatures or certain evidence pieces left behind that could produce more DNA, DNA is definitely more reliable than a bite mark. I've seen this in cases in the past. They used to use teeth and bite marks all the time to try to identify a killer, but it was never fully reliable. So if they can do that DNA testing, that would be great. We do know that the Coconino County Sheriff's Office, which is in Flagstaff's jurisdiction, has established a new cold case unit just several months ago. And so if the county attorney is already talking about Sarah's case, and now the Sheriff's Office has more resources to actually invest more time and money and resources into actual DNA testing and cold cases, this could be solvable. And because Flagstaff is a smaller community than Phoenix, there are less cold cases that are actually on the shelves in Coconino County up there than there is here in Maricopa County. So if you've got a team that's looking at a handful of cases, I have seen other northern Arizona cities and counties have solved cases because they have volunteers or units that are now dedicated to looking at those few cases that they do have. So this could be really good for Sarah's case, and it could lead us somewhere else if evidence could be conclusive. But it is so bizarre. You definitely don't hear about a skinwalker defense just as a defense at all, let alone actually working in a murder trial setting. So that is Sarah Saganitso's case, possibly to be determined, possibly more to come if they can find more evidence and do that DNA testing. But was it a skinwalker? Was it not? As of now, there is no definitive evidence that points either direction, but a skinwalker defense certainly was able to acquit the one man who was facing first-degree murder. This has been so fun to have a Halloween show with you guys. I appreciate it. And I want to do Jason in the back here, if you got your camera on. There he is, the man behind it all. He's got his skeleton shirt on that says, "I've got your back," with a bone. We love it. We love it. And all of this back here, the decorations and the smoke and the cauldron. I don't even know if you guys, there it is. The cauldron with dry ice. This is all Jason's imagination and bringing this to life. So we appreciate the fun. We love having you guys live. Thank you for the questions, the comments, and joining us. Also, our 2 live interviews. Fantastic. Just, different. Typically, I have on defense attorneys, and today we've got ghost hunters and light investigators. So love it. Everybody, happy Halloween. Have a great time, a safe time tomorrow. We can't wait to have you guys join us again for True Crime AZ Live next week. And we'll see you then. Happy Halloween. Bye.